page 35 in the chant book, so it's the last chant of the book. And the way the chants are structured is that we try to put them in line with practice. Kind of like the chants that start in September, we kind of felt like they fit well and were inspirational for beginning practice. The chants that start in January, more kind of intermediate type of practice, a little bit deeper teachings. And then during the summer are like the really deep teachings, like the teachings that are more poetic and maybe harder to understand at first glance. So this, the way of everyday life, is one of those teachings. So I invite you to chant along if you'd like. But don't worry about understanding the references. Just kind of listen to it. These chants are all available online on our website. You know, the whole chant book is on our website, so if you want to review them in your own, at home, they're available for you. You can print them out, whatever you like. When all dharmas are Buddha Dharma, there are enlightenment and delusion, practice, life and death, Buddhas and creatures. When the 10,000 dharmas are without self, there are no delusions, no enlightenment, no Buddhas, no creatures, no life and no death. The Buddha way transcends being and non-being, therefore there are life and death, delusion and enlightenment, creatures and Buddhas. Nevertheless, flowers fall with our attachment and weeds spring up with our aversion. To carry the self forward and realize the 10,000 dharmas is delusion. That the 10,000 dharmas advance and realize the self is enlightenment. It is Buddhas who enlighten delusion. It is creatures who are deluded in enlightenment. Further, there are those who attain enlightenment above enlightenment. There are those who are deluded within delusion. When Buddhas are truly Buddhas, one need not be aware of being Buddha. However, one is the realized Buddha and further advances in realizing Buddha. Seeing forms with the whole body and mind, hearing sounds with the whole body and mind, one understands them intimately. Yet it is not like a mirror with reflections, nor like water under the moon. When one side is realized, the other side is dark. To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be enlightened by the 10,000 dharmas. To be enlightened by the 10,000 dharmas is to be free one's body and mind and those of others. No traces of enlightenment remains, and the traceless enlightenment is continued forever. When one first seeks the truth, one separates oneself from it. When one has already correctly transmitted the truth to oneself, one is one original self at that moment. When riding on a boat, If one watches the shore, one may assume that the shore is moving. But watching the boat directly, one knows that it is the boat that moves. If one examines the 10,000 dharmas with a deluded body and mind, one will suppose that one's mind and nature are permanent. But if one practices infinitely and returns to the true self, it will be clear that the 10,000 dharmas are without self. Firewood turns into ash and does not turn into firewood again, but do not suppose that the ash is after and the firewood is before. We must realize that firewood is in a state of being firewood and has its before and after, yet having this before and after, it is independent of them. Ash is in the state of being ash and it has its before and after. Just as firewood does not become firewood again after it is ash, so after one's death, one does not return to life again. Thus, that life does not become death is a confirmed teaching of the Buddha Dharma. For this reason, life is called the non-born. That death does not become life is a confirmed teaching of the Buddha Dharma. Therefore, death is called the non-extinguished. Life is a period of itself. Death is a period of itself. For example, they are like winter and spring. We do not think that winter becomes spring, nor do we say that spring becomes summer. Gaining enlightenment is like the moon reflecting in the water. The moon does not get wet, nor is the water disturbed. Although its light is extensive and great, the moon is reflected even in a puddle an inch across. The whole moon and the whole sky are reflected in a dewdrop in the grass, in one drop of water. Enlightenment does not disturb the person, just as the moon does not disturb the water. A person does not hinder enlightenment, just as the dewdrop does not hinder the moon in the sky. The depth of the drop is the height of the moon. As for the duration of the reflection, you should examine the water's vastness or smallness. And you should discern the brightness or dimness of the heavenly moon. When the truth does not fill our body and mind, we think that we have enough. When the truth fills our body and mind, we realize that something is missing. For example, when we view the four directions from a boat on the ocean where no land is in sight, we see only a circle and nothing else. No other aspects are apparent. However, the ocean is neither round nor square. Its qualities are infinite in variety. It is like a palace. It is like a jewel. It just seems circular as far as our eyes can reach at the time. The 10,000 dharmas are likewise like this. Although ordinary life and enlightenment life assume many aspects, we only recognize and understand through practice what the penetrating power of our vision can reach. In order to appreciate the 10,000 dharmas, we should know that although they look round or square, the other qualities of oceans and mountains are infinite in variety. Furthermore, other universes lie in all quarters. It is so not only around ourselves, but also right here and in a single drop of water. When a fish swims in the ocean, there is no limit to the water, no matter how far it swims. When a bird flies in the sky, there is no limit to the air, no matter how far it flies. However, no fish or bird has ever left its element since the beginning. When the need is large, it is used largely. When the need is small, it is used in a small way. Thus, no creature ever comes short of its own completeness. Whatever it stands, it does not fail to cover the ground. If a bird leaves the air, it will die at once. If a fish leaves the water, it will die at once. Know then that water is life. Know that air is life. Life is the bird and life is the fish. Beyond these, there are further implications and ramifications. In this way, there are practice and enlightenment, mortality and immortality. Now, if a bird or a fish tries to reach the limit of its element before moving in it, this bird or this fish will not find its way or its place. Attaining this place, one's daily life is the realization of ultimate reality, Genjo Koen. Attaining this way, one's daily life is the realization of ultimate reality, Genjo Koen. Since this place and this way are neither large nor small, neither self nor other, neither existing previously nor arising just now, they therefore exist thus. Thus, if one practices and realizes the Buddha way, when one gains one Dharma, one penetrates one Dharma, when one encounters one action, one practices one action. Since the place is here and the way leads everywhere, the reason the limits of the knowable are unknowable is simply that our knowledge arises with and practices with the absolute perfection of the Buddha Dharma. Do not practice thinking that realization must become the objects of one's knowledge and vision and be grasped conceptually. Even though the attainment of realization is immediately manifest, its intimate nature is not necessarily realized. Some may realize it and some may not. Priest Baochi of Magu Mountain was fanning himself. A monk approached and asked, "Sir, the nature of the wind is permanent, and there is no place it does not reach. Why then must you still fan yourself?" "Although you understand that the nature of wind is permanent," the master replied, "you do not understand the meaning of its reaching everywhere." "What is the meaning of its reaching everywhere?" asked the monk. The master just fanned himself. The monk bowed with deep respect. This is the enlightenment experience of Buddha Dharma and the vital way of its correct transmission. Those who say we should not use a fan because wind is permanent, and so we should know the existence of wind without using a fan, know neither permanency nor the nature of wind. Because the nature of wind is eternally present, the wind of Buddhism actualizes the gold of the earth and ripens the cheese of the long river.
I'd like to invite the incense lighters to come forward, please. In the chant book on page 2 is the incense lighting gatha. I'd like to invite you to join me in chanting that. In gratitude, we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as Earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Can we bow? Good morning. Great to see so many people here. I wanted to give a few courtesy announcements before we get going today. If you have a child present today, we do have an area downstairs where there's toys and availability of, movement. So if you get restless up here, you can take your child downstairs. There's also a water fountain and cups downstairs. If you need to move in order to use the bathroom, please go along the back of the wall there. And there's bathrooms behind the gray curtain there. There's also bathrooms downstairs. And if you need to get up to stretch or anything, the same thing, just walk around the back, please. I encourage you to join us in the chants and prostrations and everything that we offer here, but you don't have to. So it's at your own comfort level. When we chant, the chants will be in the chant book. We'll tell you what page. And just encourage you to chant mindfully, loud enough so that you can hear yourself, but not so loud that you can't follow along with your neighbors. All right, at that time, I'd like to invite everyone to stand up and greet each other silently with bows. Our first chant is in the chant book, The Three Refuges, on page 3. I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the three jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to practice mindful breathing, smiling, looking deeply into things. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion, and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to offer joy to one person in the morning, and to help be free from one person in the afternoon. I vow to resist disease sanely, and test with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry or anxiety in order to find free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. Next, we're going to chant the Heart Sutra together on page 4. Dharma,
see the emptiness of all five skandhas, and deliver all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. No emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness. No eye, ear, no nose, tongue, body, mind. No form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind. No realm of sight, no realm of consciousness. No ignorance, nor extinction of ignorance. No old age and death, nor extinction of them. No suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. Dharma, hold on to nothing but Prajna, Paramita. Therefore the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance there is no fear. Away from all delusive views, one which is eternal nirvana. All Buddhas past, present, and future, through faith in Prajna, Paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the Prajna, Paramita, is the great Rani, the radiant fearless mantram, the utmost supreme mantram, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the Prajna, Paramita. Gate, gate, Paragate, Parasangate, Swaha. Gate, gate, Paragate, Parasangate, Swaha. Gate, gate, Paragate, Parasangate, Swaha. Prajna, Paramita, Hridaya, Sutra.
So I wanted to offer you the opportunity to do some deep bows to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. In my own practice, I do prostration at the beginning of each sitting practice. And it's something that's the tradition for AJSC started last year, I think. So I'm not going to do a full prostration, and it's hard to do it because there's so many people here, so I invite you to join me with bows. So basically we'll be going like this, not voice. Coming back up. We're going to do 3 to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And right before the bow, I'll say to the Buddha, to the Dharma. I go first to the Buddha, you can join me if you like. I go first to the Dharma, then I go first to the Sangha last. I go for refuge to the Buddha. I go for refuge to Dharma. I go for refuge to Sangha. Please be seated.
My name is Kunga Nyima. I'm the senior teacher and a teaching monk here at the temple. Thank you all for coming today. Title of my talk today is My Practice. We've had some talks over the summer from different teachers talking about taking a break, going on a spiritual retreat. And I've been gone for 3 months, but I didn't do a retreat during my vacation. My daughter got married and we went to Rhode Island for July 4th. So it wasn't really, an opportunity to take a retreat, but I did continue my practice during that time. And I think for a lot of us, who are balancing working full time and, our families and our relationships, it's really important to think about and talk about how do we continue our practice in our everyday life. It's great, if we can get away for a weekend or a week or maybe even a month to do like an intensive practice. I mean, there's lots of benefits from that. But in the end, you have to come back to your everyday life. And how do we maintain our practice throughout that time? The morning bell chant, Genjo Koan, the way of everyday life. So I read that when I chanted that this morning. One thing that stuck out to me, if you look in your chant book on page 39, it's the end of the chant. There's a little koan there. Two monks are together, a teacher and a student. And the teacher is sitting down. It's a hot day. The teacher's fanning themselves with a fan. And the student asks him, why does he need to fan himself? The wind is everywhere. The wind is all the way, all around. Why do you need to fan yourself? And the teacher tells him he really doesn't understand. If he understood, he would know he has to fan yourself. And the idea is, what I'm going to talk about today is fanning ourselves. How do we keep generating our practice? The practice is always there in life, first to engage with. But we have to motivate ourselves to actually engage with it. It doesn't just happen by itself. I wanted to share Gatha by Thich Nhat Hanh. I didn't put this on a handout, but it's written on the wall downstairs. So after service, you can copy it down if you're interested. Variations of it are also available online. I'm of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape getting old. I'm of the nature to have ill health. There's no way to escape having ill health. I'm of the nature to die. There's no way to escape death. Everything I own and everyone I love is of nature to change. There's no way to escape being separated from them. My actions are my only true possessions. I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I stand. So what I'm going to be talking about today is the actions, those actions that he's talking about that are so important. When I was thinking about this talk and how to talk about my practice, I decided that there were 5 things that I do on a regular basis to keep my practice going. There's my meditation practice. There's prostrations, recitations or memorizations, Dharma study, and also keeping a journal. So I thought I would talk about each one of those things today. The Buddha famously states in the introduction to many sutras, "Go find a quiet space in the forest, under the roots of a tree, or in an empty hut to sit and meditate." So every Sunday we offer the opportunity to meditate here after the Dharma talk, or sometimes right before or during the Dharma talk. And the Buddha really emphasized the importance of this practice. That's how the Buddha attained their own enlightenment, through meditation. It's really important to do these practices because our whole Buddhist practice is based on having some awareness of how our thoughts develop, how our mind works. In order to get some familiarity, we need to do some investigating of our own. And that's what meditation practice is about. It's about sitting still and not focusing on anything, but the awareness of how our mind works. How thoughts come into being, how thoughts disappear, how we become attached to thoughts, how we don't become attached to other thoughts, how some thoughts are, we don't like some thoughts, how some thoughts we really like a lot. All that knowledge is very important. So we have the meditation we offer here. We have a Wednesday night meditation group that you're invited to join online that I lead. I think those are very important to practice. We offer introduction to meditation classes as well. And when we do the preceptor class and the bodhisattva class, those classes really emphasize having a regular meditation practice, encouraging you to do it, daily, if not daily, at least weekly on a regular basis. So one of the reasons for practicing meditation so much is a good analogy is to think about a musician. If you want to learn to play an instrument, a guitar is my thing. I've been trying to learn to play the guitar for like 15 years. You have to put in the time and effort, because in the beginning, you're going to be completely preoccupied with where to put your fingers, how to hold the instrument, how to play the notes, where the notes are. And it's really difficult to make music when you're in your mindset like that. You have to practice so much so that you can just do it effortlessly. You don't have to think about where you're putting your fingers or what next note is coming up. It's just kind of an automatic effort. So the same with your meditation. We want to practice to the point so that we're aware of our thoughts that generate our actions and our speech as soon as they arise, or even before, in a way, like we know certain things maybe trigger certain thoughts in us and trying to avoid those things. But it's very difficult to, we practice without meditating all the time. We just kind of do things and make mistakes, and then we apologize, and, we suffer and other people suffer. So we're trying to kind of eliminate that step. And the way we do this is by practicing our meditation, so we're more aware of our thoughts, which generate our speech and our actions. In my own practice, I meditate every morning as soon as I wake up before I do anything else. I used to meditate in the evening for years, and I was often drowsy. I was more distracted. When you practice first thing in the morning, all you've been doing is sleeping for 7 or 8 hours. So it's a little bit easier, I think, to focus. So I would encourage everybody to start a meditation practice if you haven't. Next, I want to talk about memorizations and recitations. So at the temple here, we encourage memorization in our preceptor class. We encourage people to memorize all the morning chants, the 3 refuges, the Heart Sutra, the closing gathas, so that you can practice those at your own. And you can just chant them without having to refer to the written material. There's a long history of memorizations in Buddhism. All the Buddhist teachings for the first couple hundred years were just memorized and recited. Nothing was written down until Ananda, who was a Buddha's attendant, who had basically a photographic memory, recited all the teachings. Maybe I think it was like 3 months after the Buddha's death, recited all the teachings so they could be approved. And this still took a while before they actually were written down. The importance of memorization is similar to the importance of meditating. If you come into a situation and you've already memorized a Buddhist teaching that relates to that situation, you can kind of maybe act on it. You know, you don't really necessarily in the everyday life have time to go grab a book and see what the Buddha said about this situation. What do you do if this comes up? I took some classes. I'm a social worker, and I took some classes once on developing coping strategies. And they talked about in those classes the importance of practicing the skills that you learn, the coping skills you learn. And they say, neurons that fire together, wire together. So normally in everyday life, we interact with life based on things or responses that we learn from our parents or from our own experience. You know, and we haven't really thought maybe about a lot about how we respond to things. You know, if we lose our anger, we're just like, oh, maybe I learned that from my dad. You know, he has a short temper, so that's why I lose my anger. But I really can't do anything about it. You know, but this idea of Buddhism is that we can do things about that. You know, and by memorizing the teachings, we are creating a pattern in our brains so that when that event happens, we're going to react in that way. You know, the way the Buddha taught, with wisdom and compassion, as opposed to maybe the normal way that we were taught, you know, through our experiences in life. So I started memorizing things pretty early. You know, soon after I started meditation, I started recitations. And I started with short sutras and expanded to longer sutras. I usually do memorizations throughout my day, like recitations. Like when I'm driving the car, I'll be reciting things like the 5 mindfulness trainings or different things that we memorized in the Bodhisattva class. When I'm walking the dog, I'll work on memorizations. Right now, I'm trying to memorize the Dhammapada, which is like really long, but it's a required memorization for Theravadan novice monks. So I thought that would be really interesting to put that in. It's been very helpful and very meaningful. I have memorizations I do throughout the day and at night and in the morning. So it's just something that kind of whenever I would normally maybe be daydreaming or just kind of not thinking about anything, when I realize it, I can say, oh, well, maybe I'll practice some memorization here rather than just sitting here, you know, being bored or thinking something negative about someone. So next I wanted to talk about prostrations. I introduced prostrations right before we sat down, and prostrations are something we teach all the preceptors. It's an ancient practice. Many of the sutras, before the first question is asked of the Buddha, the questioner will do a prostration to indicate that they're showing respect for the Buddha. At the temple, we talk about taking refuge to the Buddha as a role model, the teachings as a guide, and to the Sangha, the community that supports us. This taking refuge is not something new to us. I mean, we are taking refuge our whole life. We just don't think about it. When you're a child, you take refuge in your parents. You know, that's where you find your safety. That's where you look to find out how you should do things. As you become an adult, you know, you take refuge in the things that your friends tell you, you know, what you learn on TV, maybe what you read in books. We're constantly taking refuge. We're constantly looking for different places to find support for what we believe. You know, so here at the temple, and in Buddhism, we're asking you to take refuge in the Buddha as a role model, his teachings, you know, and this community as a support system. So you're taking making a decision. This is where I'm going to go for my strength. I'm not just going to, you know, take it from anywhere. You can think the dangers of taking refuge in unhelpful places. You know, some people will take refuge in drugs and alcohol, right? So that becomes their refuge. That's where they escape. Some people take refuge in television or the internet, social media, and then they just while away all their time there. You know, it becomes this long distraction. Right now I'm doing, I started doing prostration just a few years ago when I took the Bodhisattva class. And right now I do prostrations every morning. I'm actually involved in a Tibetan practice, and it's about accumulating prostrations. So the goal is 100,000 prostrations. So I do prostrations every morning, just kind of working towards that goal. It's it's like years away, right? So it's more about just like doing it at the time and just sort of a mindful exercise of your body. So I encourage prostrations before you get to sit down to sit, you know, 3 prostrations to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha, just to remind you why you're practicing. So Dharma study is something that's very important when you go on retreat. Nelson Skara talked about Dharma talks they were giving when he went on his Zen retreat. And Igisu talked about how the Tibetan teachers gave her a specific sutra to study during her 5-day retreat. So we offer, Dharma teachings here, right, at the temple every Sunday. That's why we think it's important. But I encourage you to also study on your own. Traditionally, it's said that the Buddha has 84,000 teachings out there, right? So you're never going to get to them all unless you start studying. When we teach the precept class here, we study with them the Dharmapada and the Heart of the Buddha's Teachings by Thich Nhat Hanh. So the Dharmapada is a collection of short poetic sayings broken up into chapters, which are really dealing specifically kind of with everyday life, though maybe it's everyday life, 2,000 years ago. But it's still, I think, very if you substitute some of the things they talk about with more contemporary examples, it's very meaningful. In the Way of the Bodhisattva class, we talk about the Way of the Bodhisattva by Shantideva. We study that. And then if you become a Dharma teacher intern here, we study the short, middle, and long-term discourses of the Buddha in addition to other sutras. Recently, I finished studying the Bodhisattva, Way of the Bodhisattva with the Bodhisattva students. I'm studying the practice of Lojong with Dharma teacher intern Upaya. And I also have a Dharma group that I meet with on Monday nights for 2 hours, and we're studying the 37 practices of the Bodhisattva. In addition, there's a lot of online teachings. I really encourage people to use those. And I usually listen to, there's a Tibetan teacher, Michael Geshe Roach. Igesu turned me on to him. He has hours and hours and hours, thousands of hours of Dharma talks on there in the Tibetan tradition. And I usually listen to, 40 minutes of Dharma talk every day, like when I'm exercising. So just a way of continuing to build your knowledge and understanding of the teachings. Journaling. So journaling is kind of a more contemporary practice, right? They weren't writing down the Buddha's teachings. No one was journaling either. But there is a rich history of teaching and writing about the commentaries about the sutras in Zen, which this temple was founded in Zen. When we did Genjo Koen, that written by Dogen Zenji is a very famous commentary and teaching, I guess, combined. When we do the precept class, we encourage the students to keep a daily journal. So they talk about how the precept is coming up in their daily life. So for example, we start out with the first precept, not to kill. So they'll talk about that each day, how did they encounter that in their life? It might be, maybe they saw something in the news, there's some form of killing going on in the news. Maybe someone made them so angry, they felt like they wanted to be violent. Anything like that. They write about that. Also write about their meditation. In the Bodhisattva class, we encourage people to write about meditation. We also write about how many prostrations they did that day, what they're memorizing, and the Way of the Bodhisattva. We call it Awakening of the Day. What they read in the Awakening of Bodhisattva? They have questions about that kind of thing. So it's kind of this idea of practicing every day and building up your practice in everyday life is something we really stress in the classes that we provide here at the temple. I think it's a lot to think that you're going to go home today and you're going to start meditating and memorizing and prostrating and doing Dharma talks and journaling. That's a lot to take on all at once. And that's not how I developed it in my practice. I've been developing these different things in my practice for 20 years. So I would encourage you to take it slow and just pick, one thing maybe that you're going to start with. And, when I would encourage you to start with meditation. Maybe you just do that for 5 minutes a day. And then you kind of build on to that as that gets more comfortable. I still keep a daily journal. I keep it at the end of the day, and I just basically follow the Bodhisattva format we put up. You write about something that you liked, something you disliked, some part of your day where you're inattentive, and then something in your day that relates to Dharma. How do you see Dharma in your everyday life? So the idea of this goes back to the Buddha's original teaching that, our feelings are either positive feelings, negative feelings, or neutral feelings, right? So we're going to point out in our journal something good that happened today. And usually in my journal, there's a lot of good things going on. I write a lot of there. Something negative that happened or something that caused us a problem. It might be something that we did. Usually it's something we did, but maybe there's something someone else did and we think, oh, they did something wrong that caused me a problem. And then sometime we were inattentive, some mistake we made or some lapse in mindfulness that we write about in there. So I wanted to wrap things up by revisiting the 5 remembrances with a little short commentary. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. So our life is short. Just yesterday we were children. Tomorrow we are retired. We have gray hair. Start your practice now before time runs out. I am of nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. The human body is fragile. We are only a few breaths away or a few heartbeats away from death or sickness. Practice now while you're still healthy. I am of nature to die. There is no way to escape death. Our time of death cannot be picked, cannot be avoided. Most of our ancestors, relatives are already passed away. You could die when you leave today. There's no guarantee that you won't die today. So start your practice now. All that I own and everyone that I love is of the nature to change. There is no way to avoid being separated from them. When you die alone. Nothing that you own and no one that you love is going to be able to help you at the time of death. They can't go with you. My actions are my only true possessions. I cannot escape the consequence of my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I stand. Your spiritual practice is the only thing that will truly put an end to your suffering and can help you at the time of death. So for that reason, you should make that a priority. That's the only thing that's going to help you, your spiritual practice. Doesn't matter how big your house is, how much money you make, how nice your retirement is, how healthy you are now, how many friends you have. All those things are going to disappear. Nothing will take you. They describe it in one of the dying practices that you're walking through like a hallway, kind of like a greenhouse hallway, and it's glass. And there you can see through to the other side. And on the other side are all your friends and family. And you're like trying to yell at them and signal them, and they're just ignoring you. And you're walking through death. And then you notice on the ground outside the window, all your possessions, all the favorite books, all the objects that you love, your car, your house, they're all just sitting there, and they're just gone. They're no help to you now. You can't bring them with you. But the only thing that is there to help you is your spiritual practice, the quality of your mind that you've developed over your life. So, thank you. So I'd like to invite us to sit down and practice our meditation now, because this is very important to us. So get yourself into a comfortable position. So traditionally, you would have your legs folded in front of you. If you can put them in the floor in front of you, uncrossed, that's perfect. They call it the Burmese posture. If you can sit in a half lotus or a full lotus, that's even better. But you probably have to work on that. So if you're sitting in a chair, feet flat on the floor, put your left hand up against your stomach, your right hand inside, thumbs lightly touching. This will bring your shoulders back. You're going to bring your chin in. You can tilt your head down a little bit. You can keep your eyes open. If you're feeling sleepy, if you're feeling distracted, and close your eyes. If you keep them open, having a soft gaze down at the ground or at the back of the person in front of you. Place your tongue at the top of your mouth, behind your teeth. And you're going to bring awareness to your breath, wherever you feel like you can be aware of your breath without trying to control it. And to bring aware of your in-breath, and then bring aware of your out-breath. And if you've never meditated before, we encourage you to count your breaths. So in and out is 5, count down to 1, then repeat. The value of that is it gives you something more to hold on to, and it's easier to see when you become distracted because you lose count. Once you feel comfortable with being aware of your breath and not losing track of it, you can just let go of that counting and just be aware of the breathing, and breathing in and breathing out, and then just be aware of awareness. If something comes in to distract you, a thought or something like that, as soon as you are aware of that thought, just go back to awareness of your breathing. I will chime the bell 3 times to start, 3 times at the end. you bow? So this is an opportunity in our service where we share joys and concerns. So an opportunity for you, the Sangha, to share what's been going on in your life. And the value of this practice is that it helps us with developing the four immeasurables. So loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Hearing that other people are suffering and that other people are rejoicing is a way for us to develop our equanimity. We realize that everyone else is just like us. They don't want to have suffering. They want to have happiness. But because of the winds of karma, they're experiencing things in life that are challenges. So we can share in the pain they feel, and we can also share in the joys of their life. And then that helps us with our practice. So if you have a joy or concern you would like to share, just raise your hand, and Ananda will bring a microphone for you. I'll go ahead and start. So it's great, to be here at the temple. I live in St. Joe, Michigan, so it's 80 miles away, and we don't have a temple like this in our area. So it's really great to have the opportunity to be here with you all at least once a month. Just went to Denver for a wedding. One of my nieces got married, so that was great. My daughter got married prior. They're in the same generation, right? So all these cousins are probably going to be getting married in the next 5-10 years. So that was really fun to get together with family again. So thank you.
I get to bring my favorite Aunt Evelyn with me to the practice today. And she drove all the way from Sparta to pick me up and take me here. And it's probably, I've been going here for about a year on and off, not fully, but I'm excited to be here and have her share this with me.
Good morning. My name is Kate Arambo, and a joy in my life is that my granddaughter, who lives with us, just moved out back to Michigan State, thank God. And you know how grateful you are when your little kids go back to school? Well, it's that way with 19-year-olds too. So it's a joy for her and a joy for us because our house is much quieter and less active now.
Hi, my name's Ellen. My older sister is visiting us right now, and we got to celebrate her 80th birthday with her yesterday. Part of the visit is every year when she does come back here from Maryland to visit her very best friend since they were little girls, who has now, unfortunately, early onset dementia and is in a nursing home. So I've been going over there when I can and singing to her and playing my ukulele. And so I was trying to prepare my sister because there's been a great change in this last year and how things just weren't going to be the same. Well, we sat down and I started playing my ukulele, and dang, if her toes didn't start tapping, she was snapping her fingers and smiling, and my sister and I both went, I don't know why. But the 2 visits in a row were like that. The second visit, she got up and started dancing. I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is it. So very joyous about that. So thank you. Where is it? Craig?
My name is Angel Kashanti Bava. I'm just really grateful. My son had a really difficult year last year. There's been a lot of transitions. And I knew that this summer I'd be able to spend a lot of time with him and help him kind of recalibrate. And he's doing great. And he started at a new school this week and loves it. So I'm just feeling really grateful that he's doing so well and in such a better place. And I'm also just really grateful for this this sangha. I just feel like, especially in the past, I don't know, month or two, I've just been noticing the space that you all are able to hold through so many different scenarios. Everyone just knows they're kind of, it's like just really beautiful. Everyone's in their own container and moving into their own experience. And that creates such a beautiful container that can hold so much with so much compassion. So I don't think I've experienced quite this environment in any other spaces. And I've been coming here for at least a couple of years now, and it's still sinking in how much I love it. So thank you all for your part in that.
Anything online? Okay.
Well, my joy this morning is that everyone shared a joy. And so that was wonderful. And I know that there are still concerns unshared, possibly. And, we have the concerns with the joy. They come together. But it was good to hear everyone's joy this morning. So.
I'm Ananda Pulabhava. This is really extraordinary sitting up here looking at you guys this way. I've never got to do that before. That's a joy. I have a couple joys and concerns. Guy and Light, 4 guys made it through the whole program, and they made it to the milestone of living in transitional housing. So we did a house welcoming party yesterday. So that's extraordinary. Well, also 2 guys got exited, and so that's always a concern. One guy checked in with the sponsor yesterday, and he's still doing well. It's always a good sign when you get kicked out of a rehab program that you call your sponsor. But the other one, I'm not sure. So that's a joy and a concern. And then it always brings me great joy greeting and seeing extraordinary people walk in with a smile on your face. There's a huge gift in the preciousness of seeing you guys smile. So that really brings my heart joy. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to take a moment to hold these in our heart. And there is a particular practice associated with this, Tonglen. And the idea is that when you know someone is suffering or experiencing pain, or you could add also, experiences of joy as well. But like I know there wasn't a lot of difficult situations shared today, but we know there are lots of difficult situations going on in the world right now. And so if we, during this moment of silence, if you just bring to mind someone who is suffering, it can be someone personally, it might just be someone about through the news. Just kind of visualize breathing in that suffering as like black light or a black cloud. You breathe it into your heart, you extinguish it. Just you can imagine just like a match just going out, a little puff of smoke. And then you breathe out to that person, loving kindness and compassion, relief from their suffering. So I invite you, if you feel like you would like to use this time for that. Also, you can just use this time to sit with joy for whatever joys have been shared here. We bow. So we have some announcements for August. As I said earlier, we do have an online meditation group that meets virtually from 6 to 6:45 on Zoom. You can check the newsletter for how to join that. Most of August is already taken care of here. So we have the 5 Buddhist precepts training coming up on September 7th. I mentioned the precepts class a couple times during my talk. You do need to either have taken the introduction to meditation class or have permission from one of the Dharma teachers here to take it if you haven't taken that class. But that's a really nice opportunity for you to deepen your practice, because when you're taking that class, we are requiring you to do all the things I talked about today. You know, we're requiring you to meditate every day. Like, we're talking about doing prostrations on a regular basis, doing journaling, studying the Dharma, doing memorizations. You know, all that is part of the curriculum. Oh, let's see. We have Buddhist-based recovery meetings on Mondays at 6:30. Meditation, 7 p.m. meeting at the temple. And we also, there are recovery groups at 6:30 at the L&O Club on 1020 College Avenue on Wednesdays. And then at 10:05 a.m. meditation, 10:30 meeting at the temple here on Fridays. Anything else that you want to add? Okay.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Nasan Skara. I wanted to say that we're going to have, beginning in September, upcoming trainings for some of the tasks that we have every morning, every Sunday morning here at the temple. These are part of a group that we have of volunteers that arrive somewhat early and take care of cultivating a space for us to come together and practice the Dharma, cleaning bathrooms, taking out trash, things like that, as well as lighting incense, doing greeting, setting up the cushions, putting out the chant books, and things like that. With our upcoming precept class, beginning in September, we're going to, and I don't have the exact dates, but they're going to be on the newsletter coming out this week. And if you look at the newsletter after that, or I guess get with me after that, I can have dates for you. But from 9 to 9:30, before service on Sundays, beginning in September, 3 Sundays in a row, we'll have trainings for, on one Sunday, greeting. There you go. Thank you. The 7th, the 14th, and the 21st. Did you say that during your announcements already? Very good. Very good. Again, those days will be on the newsletter, or you can ask me, the 7th to 14th and the 21st, we think. 9 o'clock to 9:30. One will be training for greeting. One will be training for incense lighting. One will be training for Dharma hall setup. So if you're interested in, volunteering for any of those things, learning how to do those things, you can come at 9 o'clock on those days. You can come and see me, and I'm happy to get you more info on that. And then one thing before we go, this past weekend, again, I was lucky enough to spend time at the Nebraska Zen Center for their August sesshin. So all weekend long, we were there, I'm doing the business of meditating, and it's not really business, right? But things like that. But what I noticed that I wanted to say this morning is that when all of the Sangha got up from the Dharma hall, they would sort of really pay mindful attentiveness to their cushion, the zafu and zabuton, how they're placed, where they left them, where they found them. And I think that this was a wonderful practice that, we might be able to incorporate a little bit more of here. So I would encourage everyone this morning, when we get up and we go about, going downstairs or out into the world, before you do that, if you can, please rearrange your spot and take just a moment to have some mindfulness about the way it was when you found it and the way that you leave it. Someone will come around and collect the chant books, but your cushions and their positioning, the way that they are, it's a nice practice to have. I think it's really good. So, and we would appreciate that. Thank you.
we have a Donna announcement? Oh, the book club starting on Thursday, the first Thursday in September? This Thursday. What time is it? 9:30 is a book club downstairs on Thursdays with Reverend Jing Su, and they are studying a Thich Nhat Hanh book. What's it called? Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet. So it's an opportunity for you to think more about how you can put your practice into actions in a way that's so save the planet. Is there a Donna announcement? Okay, so I'll do a quick one. There are Donna boxes at that entrance and this entrance. The temple runs completely on donations. So everyone here at the temple right now is donating their time. No one is paid for anything. All the money you donate goes towards paying the bills, electricity, light, water, keeping this great space that we have. So if you can donate financially, we really appreciate it. If you can donate your time, then we have those classes coming up that Nelson Scar talked about, where you can learn about how to do incense sliding and do temple setup and big reader and things like that. Thank you so much. We'll all please stand now. We'll do our closing gathas. This is on page 6 in the gym. Wrong, still action, generated by these soul, on account of my beginnings, greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts. Now I atone for it all. That's the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddhist teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless flying passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to enter. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain. Very much. We'll have a little social hour, tea time downstairs for about 20 minutes before we have a meeting.
Thank you.